Welcome back to GBN Tonight with me, Christopher Hope. Will workers' free time finally be their own? The Labour government wants to introduce a legal right not to be bothered so that staff can ignore bosses' emails and texts and calls outside of normal office hours, including holidays. It's all part of Labour's election pledge to give everybody a right to switch off for the first time ever. What do you do to stop your boss bothering you out of hours? Do let me know. gbnews.com/your say, and I'll try and read out the most appropriate. Joining me now is my panel, GB News' Senior Political Commentator Nigel Nelson and Telegraph's Associate Editor Mutaz Ahmed. Mutaz, do you ever turn your phone off?
I don't.
But you're a journalist, so you can't afford to. But if you work in a call centre or a job which doesn't involve being always on it for the information, you've got a more conventional job, it's right, isn't it, that you can turn your phone off?
I think often if you work in a call centre, you probably can turn your phone off. You're answering calls all day and a lot of your business isn't done on a mobile phone, it's done on a telephone at work. I think if you want to work in banking, if you want to be a senior journalist, if you want to work in a high-functioning job that pays well in the end, you have to keep your phone off. I know this is being branded as a Gen Z thing. I'm Gen Z. I was born in 98.
Gen Z is defined as being born in
97
to 2012.
To 2012. Look, take advantage of this, right? Some of your colleagues might want the right to switch off at 5 p.m. Take advantage of it. The workplace is competitive. If you work longer hours, you're more likely to get a promotion. That's how it works.
Nigel Nelson, this idea is inspired by policies in France where the right to disconnect has been enshrined in law since 2017. Is it right, though, if you're a young, thrusting young 20-something in the workplace, you want to be always on it and then talk to the boss and get good...
And it won't be compulsory, so if you want to connect up with your boss, that's fine. It depends what job you do. We work in news, the three of us. News goes on all the time. It would be ridiculous to think that we could ever leave our emails or a phone call alone, because we don't know what's about to happen next. Same with an emergency worker. But say you're working in a clerical job or a manual job, if it's absolutely 9 to 5 and your job is over by then, there's no reason why you should be contacted by your boss except in an emergency. And bear in mind, this is not, it's not a criminal offence for bosses to do it. What Labour are looking at is whether or not, if a boss harassed an employee with loads of emails that they shouldn't have sent, and it ended up as an unfair dismissal claim at a tribunal, the tribunal will take that into account within the compensation. So that's as far as...
So punish the employer with...
Yeah.
If you're a working mum and your hours are really strict, or you're a working dad, you've got to be out by 5 to get the kids at 6 and feed them. This kind of thing is a protection.
Well, no, negotiate that with your employer, right? Most employers are sympathetic to these things. I think this is just another layer of red tape and bureaucracy. Right? Is an employer now going to feel nervous about contacting someone at 8 p.m. if there is a crisis in the business? It depends what you call an emergency. An emergency for an employer might be losing £1,000 or £2,000 over something. Will they then feel nervous about contacting someone?
Yeah, but I mean, and that would be, in this particular case, it would be an industrial tribunal then decide that. I mean, there are extremes here. In Portugal, it's an £8,500 fine if you make contact with one of your employees outside office hours. You then go to the other end of the scale, Ireland, and all that the employer has to do there is put a little note at the end of the email saying, I'm sending this at a time of my choosing. You don't have to open it. When you get back to work, it's fine. That kind of idea. So somewhere in between is where Labour are going.
Where did all this start, Mutaz? Did it start with COVID, work from home? I mean, you've confessed you're a Gen Z.
Yeah.
Is that because people nowadays, they want to... they don't want to live to work, they want to work to live. Your job is a way of getting cash to go and spend on avocados.
It did start with COVID. People are more relaxed about work. I'm able to come in here dressed like this because...
You're very well available.
I think before COVID I would have worn a 3-piece suit and I come in dressed casually.
Yeah, I'm wearing a tie, by the way. I'm like Nigel.
I've got rid of the tie since COVID.
I think things like this don't hurt, but when it comes to legislation, you've got to be careful because it leads to ridiculous situations. I remember during the Euros when England was playing Spain, one of the Spanish footballers was 17 years old. I think the Spanish FA had to pay a fine because in Germany, a 17-year-old shouldn't work after 8 p.m. or something like that.
And the game started at 9 p.m. local time.
Exactly. So we need to be careful with laws because they often just lead to more red tape, more regulation. When these things are dealt with person to person, much better.
Well, the idea would be a contract between the employer and the employee. So the sensible way of doing it, ACAS will come up with the form of words. The sensible way of doing it will be for a code of conduct within a workplace so you know exactly where you stand.
You mentioned ACAS, tribunals. I mean, does this help the working environment?
Will it damage productivity, the big thing which the Tories talk about all the time?
I think all unnecessary regulation damages productivity.
But perhaps we might be happier, Nigel Nelson. Perhaps we know that the boss can't bother us after hours. We can just chill out.
Yeah, I'd probably get nervous if I wasn't getting emails and phone calls coming through. I'd be wondering what's going on. But for some people, if they've got a family life and they want to spend that uninterrupted, this is the best way forward.
Mutaz, you agree?
If I switch off at 5 p.m. and I'm editing the pages of a paper...
Yeah, we're different, though.
We might
you can't use journalism. I mean, most people aren't journalists. Well, most people do have jobs where they want to just the boss can clear off and down the pub.
Well, if you want a high-functioning job, you're going to have to work long hours and you get paid for it. If you work at a hedge fund, sometimes you don't leave until 1 or 2 a.m. You get paid for it. If you want an easy life, pick another job. You'll get paid less.
Do you think, as Mutaz says, there might be an advantage to let your co-workers sign up for the out of hours, do not disturb sign, and then you volunteer with your hand up. You call me any time, boss.
Yeah, I'm sure you have that sort of office politics playing out, but you get that anyway.
It's good. It's competition. I think some people will take advantage.
But it won't be compulsory. I keep saying it doesn't mean you won't be allowed to send an email.
I'm just saying if you want to take up this opportunity, beware, because some of your younger colleagues might be prepared
may well
to
try and go ahead of you, yeah.
Exactly, to reply to those emails.
But that happens in the workplace anyway, doesn't it? I mean, in all workplaces.
We are seeing a big change, aren't we, with Labour government? A lot more employment rights. I mean, is that a worry for employers, Mutaz might say? Or?
Well, it's always employers don't like anything that may affect their profits. So I can't think of a single measure that's been brought in that they haven't sort of squealed about. When the minimum wage came in, they were against that.
As with CBI, I mean, the
CBI eventually came round. But they were originally against that. So the whole thing, when it finally came in, it didn't cost the 2 million jobs that I think Michael Howard predicted. So on the basis of that, we get used to all this new stuff coming in. I think people should have rights at work.
Isn't Nigel right? We've moved on from the Thatcherite days of getting rid of employment rights. I mean,
well, it's not really getting rid of them, but the world is changing. We live in a 24-hour world now. And profit is good, and businesses should be able to maximise them. And anything that disrupts profits, we need to scrutinise.
Profit is good when it's shared.
I'm going to pause you both there, out of office hours. With me now is the head of employment at Pickering Solicitors, Joanna Robson. Joanna, thanks for joining us tonight. Do you mind being called out of hours?
No, not at all. That's the job. No, absolutely not. No, it's it's lovely to meet you, Christopher. Thank you for inviting me onto your show.
It's great to have you on. I mean, Nigel Nelson here is saying that really employers who bring this in will just face paying out more in an employment tribunal if they break the rules they're setting up for themselves. It's not really a problem in that sense.
In terms of the right to time off, you mean the right to
Yes.
Yeah, so in terms of that, there isn't going to be a standalone right, I don't think. Of course, it's still very early days. We don't quite know yet what's going to happen, or how the code of practice is going to actually be drafted. But we are really, at this stage, I think we're believing that there's going to be no standalone claim. So I guess somebody could bring a claim and it could enhance the amount being paid out to an employee if an employer falls foul of the law in terms of that right to finish, finish, switch off from work.
Is it one that young people want to do? Do you see in your time in your legal practice? Do you see it wanted by Mutaz in the studio here mentioned Gen Z people born between 97 and 2012? Is it younger people, or the older dinosaurs like Nigel Nelson next to me think it's all ridiculous?
Well,
is it a generational issue?
Yes, I think there is a generational issue. I think younger people, they generally want to make a really good impression. So sometimes you find the younger workforce are the ones that actually want to really put their mark out there, and they really want to work longer hours. And that's going to, it's going to be difficult for younger people to, switch off. Younger people don't generally, well, they do, but it's less often that, say, 18-year-olds have family commitments, which is the work-life balance which Labour is striving to achieve by reason of this new deal for working people to get that work-life balance.
Yeah, so has the approach towards work changed, do you think, since the COVID pandemic? More people work from home. Nigel won't wear a tie. Mutaz is dressed for a nightclub. It's all different nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. More people work from home. I mean, a quarter of workers in the UK now, they work hybridly. So they work in the office, so they have a presence and they still have that team morale. But then you have, there's a large proportion of people that do work from home. But in a way, working from home can have its dangers as well, because you can be in an environment where you don't feel you're at work. You could be working from the kitchen table, for example. So you're not necessarily aware that you're working, and suddenly you've clocked up 14 hours before you realise it. And then you're suffering from burnout, which is then leading to mental health problems.
Well, listen, Joanna Robson, thank you for joining us. You're the Head of Employment at Pickering Solicitors. Great to have you.